Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and it's Women's History Month, and I'm here today to talk to you about The Serpent Queen, Season 1. So this show came out in 2022, and I talked about the first episode only around, a year or a year and a half ago or so. And that's because I was unable to watch the rest of the series because I didn't have stars. And so I finally watched the series now. And this is quite an interesting show. Now, this is based on the life of the Queen of France, Catherine de Medici. And, I knew of her from the CW show Reign because she was like a main character on that show. And when watching the show Reign, I decided to look her up, and research some stuff here and there. And she's quite an interesting, ruthless, smart, and odd character and stuff. And so, I was really fascinated to see this new interpretation, to see what she was like in her youth and when she was growing up. And so, like I said before, this show is only 8 episodes, about an hour long. And they split the timeline up from when she was younger. Not sure if she was a teenager or 18 or so, and to when she's much older after that of both her husband, King Henry, and her son, King Charles' death. However, after watching the rest of the series, it actually now takes place during 3 timelines, which is really confusing. It takes place when she was younger, from when she started giving birth to a couple of her kids and reigning as queen after King Francis died and everything. And then it takes place, like I said, much later after Charles died. This show can get a bit confusing when it comes to the names and who's all related and what their titles are, because they always reuse the names. There's so many Queen Catherines, Marys, Elizabeth, King Charles, Francis. There's so many of them span all throughout Europe and stuff. There was a Queen Catherine of Russia from the show The Great. And it gets so confusing because they always rename their children after their relatives and stuff. And it's a little bit harder too when certain people on the show look identical to each other. There's 2 blonde women who are both mistresses, and I get them so confused and everything. One's banging the king and one's banging the prince. And then one, I think, is banging both at some point. And, it can get so confusing. Plus, since there's only 8 episodes and I'm so fresh to this show, it's not like Reign where everybody looks different with a different hairstyle and a different name and everything. And it takes place over 4 or 5 seasons. I think trying to combine over 30-40 years of lore into 8 episodes is really, really confusing. And I wish they would have spread it out. I was okay with the original format for the first 4 episodes or so when there's only 2 different timelines, because there's only one main timeline they focus on and the other they barely focus on. And that they focus primarily on the younger timeline, the first 4 episodes. And then in the beginning and the end of the episode, it's the older version. But then once you get to the 5th episode, then they say, forget the young timeline. Let's just now go to where after King Francis I died, and she's in somewhere in her late 20s, early 30s, and then later on in the future after her son is dead, 15 years later. And it can get very, very confusing, very confusing, because there's so much lore in just 8 episodes. And not only that, but once you get used and start liking the younger cast, they're gone for the rest of the series after that 5th or after that 4th episode and stuff. So that really sucks. I really the thing that really hooked me, because see, I love historical dramas. This is the 16th century and everything. And like I said, I was a huge fan of Reign, and I'm a huge fan of The Great. I've noticed a lot of these newer historical shows, a lot of them aren't straightforward. Now they're adding like, quirks to them and humor or some kind of thing that takes you out of like, focus and everything. Like the intros might have like a rock and roll theme or it's just something weird. The thing that intrigued me about this show, other than Samantha Morton being the lead, was that like it did those two different time periods of the younger and the older. Now, once you get to the fifth episode, it's now the older and still the older actress and stuff. It is trying to make her look a little younger and stuff. And no offense to the actress, because she's still gorgeous and everything, it just doesn't work. You can still tell she's that age. And then what makes it worse is that all the supporting characters around her, the older ones, they don't look like they've aged at all. They really didn't do anything to make them look older and stuff. And they're supposed to be much, much older and stuff. Like the only ones who really look older is like Colin Meaney as King Francis, because he was slightly younger back in the day, and then they made him look much, much older by the time of his death. And of course, Catherine changes appearance because it's two different actresses playing her, but everybody else looks absolutely the same. And I'm just kind of like, how you expect me to believe over 20, 30 something years have passed? Nobody has any gray hair or anything like that. And they're not wearing powder wigs. They're just wearing their regular hairstyles and stuff. And like, so it can get very daunting and everything. And another thing that intrigued me was breaking the fourth wall. One thing the younger Catherine did that the older one did not do is that she would turn to the camera and break the fourth wall in a very dry, wit, humor kind of way. When the older version does it, she still breaks the fourth wall, but there's no humor behind it. She just says however she says it and stuff. And I do miss the younger actress. What was really the point in bringing her in for those 4 episodes if they weren't going to have her for the rest of the series? They could have just brought her in for the first episode and let that be that. Now, I will say, in terms of shows like The Great and that of Reign, they're a little bit more thrilling because The Great is just a wacky comedy with a lot of crazy, inaccurate stuff. The Reign, while it tries to stay faithful to the lore, it's very inaccurate. So they do whatever they want, and it's more fantasy. It feels more like a soap opera and everything. And it keeps you engaged because of that fantasy type lifestyle and like all the crazy stuff that happens in there and all the drama filled stuff that's in there. But it's very inaccurate. This version, however, it's not bad. That's the thing. Like, it's a good show, but I don't really know what's real and what's like fake on the show because, all these historical shows don't take everything 100% to how it was back in the day. But this one seems to be a bit more faithful than Reign because like when it comes to like Diana, in Reign, I didn't know what the heck was Diana's purpose on that show other than being a mistress because she was barely on the show and they replaced her with Canna. And so I'm just like, okay, what the heck, because that's not what I read on Wikipedia. But when you watch this show, yes, she's very much like she is in Wikipedia. She pretty much like has a strong standing with Henry II. And she advises him on so much stuff and his men to where they listen to her and everything. And she has, like, even though she's not the queen, she has more power than Catherine because Henry will actually go to her and listen to her and always leave Catherine for her because he is madly in love with her because she was the queen in waiting until he decided to marry Catherine, which was opposed by the French people because she was an upstart, like, her family was like upstart and all this other stuff. She's known as a commoner. And they even depict her drinking gold, which she did in real life, which many people believe this is how she died because she wanted to stay youthful. And this woman's all like, oh, you drink gold, you will stay youthful, and blah, 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 and stuff like that. And, so she drank it. And not only that, but the actress who plays Diane, she's actually French. That is remarkable. I am getting so tired of seeing British people and American people play French people with British accents and stuff. And when it comes to Catherine, I didn't even know she was Italian. That's something that was never mentioned in the Rain show. So there are things they do here that's more accurate to history that I really, really like. The problem with this show is that there's no real suspense. There's drama, but it's your typical, oh, I'm a royal person and I'm trying to like dethrone you type of drama, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no suspense, there's no fantasy, there's nothing that wows you about this show because all this show does is talk. Talk, 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 talk. It's conversation after conversation after conversation of people just standing around or sitting around having a conversation. That is really boring. I want to see some engagement. I want to see something thrilling with this show, you know? Because all people do in this show, and I kid you not, all they do is clickety clack, which is just my way of saying they're doing it. And they're standing around or sitting around talking, or they're scheming about dethroning this person or killing this person. But you don't really actually see them most of the time trying to kill this person. Unless when it actually does happen, then it's like, oh, where did that come from? But that's all they do. They just bang, they talk, and they plot to kill. And that's all this show is in 8 episodes. So I was really hoping for a whole lot more. So, you know, because you had a lot of skilled talent in here. And it's like, you know, they're really wasting it. Now, Colin Meaney, oh my God, that dude gives a performance. He seems like a real king from back in the day. I remember this dude from Star Trek The Next Generation and Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And one of the reasons why he hasn't done Star Trek lately with all the revival stuff, because he said he doesn't want to be known for just Star Trek and Star Trek only. And now I see why. The dude can actually act. Well, I knew he could always act before, but like, wow, he's giving a completely different performance. Now, seeing his complete butt, I did not need to see that. I did not need to see his backside, bare butt naked. No, I did not. There is nudity in this show. It's mostly brief for the most part. The real only naked person that gets naked is like Diane, and that's about it. But another problem I'm having with this show is I don't I recognize their face, but I don't know who they are by name or the position they are. And then when I am told of their position, I'm thinking about Rain and everything. Now, another thing they do accurate is the whole Mary Queen of Scots thing, Mary Stuart, because her court that comes with her, all her females, in history, she named them all Mary. And they do that in this show. In Rain, they did not do that whatsoever. In this version, it's kind of hard for me to get behind this version of Mary because on Rain, it focused on her, so she was the good person and everybody's trying to take her out. This version, she seems a little stuck up and she does not like Catherine at all because, you know, her and Catherine just never got along, period, in history. That's something in both shows and stuff. But we don't really get to see why she despises this version of Catherine. And it's like, you know, so she wants to marry Charles II, I believe he is, who's a lot younger than her, a lot younger by like 10 years and stuff. But of course, remember when Francis II died, that like, you know, Catherine took over. And she feared that, you know, England, who constantly kept trying to assassinate her, Queen Elizabeth I, would do the deed and everything and get rid of her. And so she needed the France alliance to like secure her country and to stay alive. So in here they say that her and Mary, or no, her and Elizabeth are working together to take Catherine out. I'm not sure that really happened in real life, and I have to relook that back up. But you know, eventually, as we all know in history, Queen Elizabeth feared Mary trying to take over her position and everything, so she had her own cousin assassinated and stuff. Boy, there was some crazy times back then. And what's even crazier is that Catherine and Diane are in love with the same man and they're second cousins. And, because this show is supposed to make you feel for Catherine, even though she is such a mean woman. So when you see her in the past, she's all like oblivious and nice and learning the ropes. But then when you get to the future, still like the future stuff after Charles died, she is about as mean as she is in history and stuff because she is a ruthless person that people feared. And so, like, she's grooming her personal maid, Ramina, and everything, but we don't know exactly why at first. But Ramina isn't exactly all innocent herself. And then, of course, when you get to like I'll put it like this: first timeline, young; second timeline, more like adultish, older; and third timeline, older. And so when we get to the second timeline, we see a much nicer side of Catherine. She's a lot smarter. She wants to rule her people, and she's pissed at her cousin for always taking her man, and she can't get rid of her, and all this other stuff. And just like in both versions of the show, she believes in fortune tellers and stuff. And so in Rain, she had a different fortune teller based on history. And in this one, she has a completely different one based on history as well, because she had many of them and stuff. But we don't get to see this fortune teller that much. So it's weird because they have her having premonitions and everything, and which is kind of like a different twist on it and stuff. So it's a very like jumbled show, but it is fascinating when you watch it because you get to learn some stuff, and it's really interesting how these people live their lives. Now it has been renewed for a second season, but like I said, this came out in 2022. It is now 2024, and there's been no word whatsoever of like a second season. No pictures, no information, no nothing from the stars. But they say it's supposed to come out in 2024. So here's hoping and everything. One thing I've learned about like British, like, shows and everything is that they are very tight-lipped. You don't see no leaks, no nothing whatsoever, unlike, in American Hollywood and stuff. So they very well could have wrapped up season 2 already. There's nobody trying to leak that information out. And so when it comes to that of the characters, so Princess Catherine, played by Liv Hill, she is the younger version, a commoner who was thrust to become like the new queen and betrothed to that of Henry, I believe, the second. I'm probably gonna get some of these people's names, like second, third, ninth, all this stuff, because like, there's so many of them. You know what I'm saying? And when we meet her, she's this very quiet, very meek, person who's always been portrayed by people left and right. Like the bishop, who is, no, I think he's the Pope, I believe, who was her uncle, took her money. And, she learned that, you can't trust nobody because they will betray you. And they will betray you for money and power and stuff. And so the biggest thing when it comes to this version is that she needs to bear a child. But for some reason, she just can't. And what makes matters worse is that Henry II doesn't want to touch her. He just wants Diane, her second cousin. This infuriates her and stuff like that, to where she goes and mess around with another man, a stable boy. And so, like, the stable boy ended up murdered because him and his wife, because like somebody drew a picture of King Francis doing, I believe, like a man or something like that, and that pissed him off, so he wanted to know who it was so he can kill him. And somebody framed a stable boy. And so like, and she is known for cheating on her husband. He cheats on her and stuff like that, because kings have a mistress and all this other crap, and they were so unfaithful back in those days. And so she has to devise a way to keep her cousin away from that of her future husband and stuff, and bear a child, because if she doesn't, she's going right back home. And so something happens, I forget exactly what, but she goes to the king and tells him that, make her back into like a maid, and she doesn't want to be queen. And Henry deserves a younger woman. Do not put him like with the older woman. So this causes the king to find a younger suitor so that Diane will stay away. I think her name is Diane Portier, her last name. And so for now, she's able to keep her cousin Mitz off her man. And so after a good while of trying over and over, they finally are able to do the deed, and she's able to get pregnant. But there is a problem. See, what I didn't know at this point in time, until you get later on in the series when she's older, is how exactly did Henry's brother die? Because she wanted to make sure Henry is the only person who's gonna take the crown and stuff, and not that of his brother for whatever reason. And his brother really hates that of Catherine. So, from what I found out, she has this one servant. Oh God, I forget her name. But she has dwarfism and stuff. And so when she finds out that, the prince has a thing for her, she pretty much gets in bed with him. And there's a scene where she's playing with the apple and gives it to him. He is later poisoned and stuff. And at that time, I had no idea who poisoned him. But somebody tried to blame it on the Italians. And of course, the only Italians there is Catherine and her court. And so I later found out from the woman who has dwarfism, she is the one who delivered the apple, played around with him and everything to get him, the apple so he can eat it and get sick and die of poison. Now, when it comes to Catherine, one thing I did read, and just like in the Rain show, she's always trying to kill folks. If she feels like her power is threatened, she will take out anybody and try to clear up any loose ends by killing them. And one of the things she's known for is poisoning people. So, whew. Now, the Pope dude, I don't know how exactly he died. We saw him choking on his own vomit, and these men were standing over him, and they didn't try to help him at all. So he's gone, and she has to find a way, to get the money back and stuff like that. Anywho, her court is very loyal to her, but we don't know much of anything about them, whatsoever. And what's odd is that we see her court from when she's younger to she's a little bit older, but we don't see her around the time that Francis, her son Francis, there's too many of them. When her son Francis dies and everything, so I'm like, where the heck are they? Well, it's later on they're shown when King Charles the ninth is coronated and stuff, and Catherine is now queen and everything until he is that of age and can take over. And so she's gonna rule France, and that pisses a lot of people off because she's like a commoner and stuff like that. Now when it comes to her court, she has, like I said, the lady with dwarfism, that's her best trusted friend and aide. She has this other woman who I don't know what the world she does, and another woman, I don't know what the world she does either, but those two sleep with each other until one of the ladies starts sleeping with Diane and starts giving her the gold so she can consume. And of course, as you know in history, that later probably poisoned and killed her and stuff, because you're not supposed to digest gold, people. But when it comes to the dressmaker, the man, see, when they blame somebody for poisoning Henry's brother, they assumed it was her. So she had to put the blame on somebody. So what did she do? They're all like, well, if it wasn't you, perhaps it was your dressmaker, because we found this book with him, but the book was hers and stuff. So she sacrificed her dressmaker. Sorry about that, my camera died. But she sacrificed her dressmaker and everything, and she just let him die, which that sends a message to the rest of her court that crap, dude, she'll probably sacrifice them next and everything. So after that, when it comes to her and Henry, this version of Henry is kind of spineless. He's nice. He doesn't like doing anything ruthless and stuff like that when he's younger. Then, time skip to when they're older. And the biggest obstacle for her now is delivering all these babies she's having. Some she loses and some she doesn't. And so by this time, the king is a lot older and he's getting sick. He constantly eats. He's big. He's old. He's not taking care of himself. He's constantly banging. And so at some point, he just dies and everything. But before he dies, he talks to Catherine, somebody who he actually likes and looks up to. And he wants her to be part of his son's regent when his son takes over as king, because he says, my son is spineless and doesn't have what it takes to be king, and he's gonna need your help. And so, like, the biggest thing now is just her gaining the respect of all these men that are part of the Rivi, like something council type thing. Now, the council is comprised of a bunch of men. Now, these men we briefly see when they are younger playing around with that of like Henry and his brother and stuff like that. We don't know much about them, but as they get older, they're all these people are related somehow or another. And even when they start banging each other, it's like, family member, like they're so incest. Anyway, they all related some way or another, either through marriage or just like something, you know what I'm saying? And so, like I said before, all everybody ever does is scheme in this show. Oh, let's take this, let's take that, blah blah blah. We don't trust her, and stuff like that. And so she has to gain their trust and everything, which is going to be hard because Diane has the king's ear and likes to give orders, and she cannot get rid of him. Now, when it comes to that of Henry, King Henry, legend says that he died in a joust. A piece of shrapnel wood went straight into his eye. And that has been depicted on both shows, but it's been depicted in different ways. On Reign, it was depicted as Henry going mad, and Prince Charles decided he has to take his father out because his father has just gone mad. And so he pretended to be the person jousting and stuff. And this version is not like that. In this version, she has a vision of herself killing Diane and a vision of Henry, of course, dying from the shrapnel. So as he's jousting, she does not tell him and everything until the last minute, but he doesn't want to listen. And so as he's dying and everything, Charles takes over. Now, by this time, Mary's already there. And she does not like Mary. Those two have never gotten along in history and on both shows and this and that. And so in the future, like I said, she has taken a shine to her new maid, telling her everything that has happened to her in the past. Now, her maid is very shady. Like, she offered her the orange, but then she stole some more. And so, like, her maid claims not to be able to read, but then we see her being able to read. She takes her under her wing, and basically she can get whatever she wants. So she starts having fun by wanting to see men's shillelaghs and everything and stuff like that, and just getting what she wants and like talking nasty down to people because, they used to talk down nasty to her. Anyway, as she's telling her this story, she wants her to go to Mary's room and retrieve a letter. But then here's the thing, she set her up. And when she set her up, she sent in one of Mary's ladies to go and get a shawl. The girl is captured and thrown in prison. While Catherine is there, she treats the girl nasty, like she has no idea what's going on. And the girl is very complex, talking about, you the one who sent me to the room and you set me up and all this other stuff. So I'm all like, what game is Catherine playing? I'm all like, this woman doesn't do anything without a specific reason. And then we see Mary go into the dungeon and talk to that of the maid lady. And Mary wants the maid to be on her side. So she starts telling her a story about after how Henry died and what happened to Charles. So I'm kind of like, oh, I think I know what's going on. She set her up to get caught to gain the trust of Mary. And that's exactly what happened. And so with Mary, I don't really like this version that much. Just because I love the Rain version a whole lot more. But pretty much what happens with this one is just like always. People want her dead. Elizabeth wants her dead. They want her crown. She wants France for herself to fortify Scotland so they can have a defense against the English and against somebody else. I forget who. Probably Spain, probably. And so, like, with this, she's she believes that Catherine, deliberately had, like, Henry killed. And this version of Charles is just like his father, spineless and very, very sick. And, she's talking to, like, her uncles and everything like that. And, like, somebody's cousins, I forget, everybody's related. The dude of Guise, so whoever they are, the cardinal dude, his brother, and she's also trying to get, like, on her side, that of the Princes of Blood, which are these two guys who are related, I believe, to Catherine and own some land and this and that. They don't want nothing to do with either, like, Mary or Catherine, but they will, side with Catherine. So Catherine has devised a plan to pretend to kidnap Charles, hold him from ransom and this and that, so she can get these lands from other people and do whatever to Mary. Anyway, the plan goes awry because Charles is starting to choke on his own blood. No, not Charles. Crap, Francis. Getting these people messed up. So when I said Charles last time, I meant Francis. He starts choking on his own blood. And so because of this, the plan is all screwed up. So she pretty much tells the guards they're here to kidnap the king. So they run into the woods. This one dude who is kind of loyal to her is going to capture one of them, but then she ended up stabbing him. But then he ended up surviving. And then this is when I found out that she's the one who poisoned that dude with the apple, because she sends the lady with dwarfism to kill him so that when he wakes up, he won't tell nobody. But he doesn't die. He threatens the lady with dwarfism and, stuff like that. It is so crazy and insane when you get to the last couple of episodes because everybody's just betraying everybody. And so, like, she tells his brother, like, look, man, I'll put you someplace safe, and when it's safe, you can, like, leave, but I want you to sign over your land to me. He's like, ain't never gonna happen. So she goes to the dungeon where his brother's at and tells Mary, yo, chop off his finger. Maybe he'll tell what his brother's at. And the dude's all like, no, she set me up. Like, who you gonna believe? So Mary chops the dude's finger off, and so eventually, the dudes of Guise, or whatever you call them, they find the Princes of Blood, the one that's hiding out. And so this one dude who Catherine tried to kill actually betrayed those guys and sided with Catherine in order to protect this girl he likes. So she has him sign over his land. Then she goes to a dying Charles and is all like, look, man, you're my son, I love you, but hey, I got some poison for you, and I can ease your pain, but it will kill you, and all you gotta do is sign over the crown to me. So that's what he does. He takes the poison, he signs everything over, and so the crown is gonna go to Charles when he's of age, but he's just a kid right now. So instead, it's gonna go to his mom instead of that of Mary. Mary is pissed. She's like, crap, dude. So she's trying to get the Princess of Blood on her side. She's all like, why should I help you? You chopped my finger off. And they're all like, she played us all and everything. So when it comes to that, of the servant girl, what did I say her name was? Started with an R. Rahima, something like that. She figured everything out about how Catherine used her to get on Mary's side because Mary is looking for a letter. See, Mary wants to take down Catherine, so she figures, hey, my cousin hates me, but she hates Catherine more. So maybe if we work together, we can take Catherine out. So she sent a letter asking for an alliance. That letter never made it to her. Instead, Catherine forged a letter and hid it and stuff like that. And that's the letter that the servant maid girl went and got. And so she gives it to Mary, and Mary's all like, Queen Elizabeth wants to like do an alliance with me and gonna keep me safe and take down Catherine, but she wants me to go home and blah blah blah, stuff like that. And we all know what's gonna happen when she heads back home. And this is something all set up by Catherine. So the maid lady's all like, look, I'm with you, but I want some things in return. I want a title, I want my own land, I want some education, and some other stuff. And so that's what she gives her. And then we see Mary head on home, and the guards are like, why are you here? She's all like, duh, my cousin like has forgiven me and wants me to stay here and stuff. She's like, oh, that must be in a forgery. So we know what's gonna happen to Mary. Off screen, she gets in prison, and then she gets executed. I'm just like, holy crap. Like, holy crap. We see the coronation of like Charles the Ninth, and so of course, like I said before, he'll take over when he's an adult, but now Catherine is gonna rule all of France, and all her frenemies are looking at her like, look, we gotta get on her side. We gotta pretend like we're with her so we can take her down and blah 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 and stuff like that. And then we see the maid lady all dressed up all spiffy and everything, as she now has a title. What exactly is her title? We don't know. And we actually get to see her former court. They're just standing there worried and everything. And we even see Diane, who does not trust Catherine. And so, because I was wondering what happened to her court, and they were still there. She didn't do anything to them. Like the one with Dorfism wanted her freedom to go back home to Italy, but she would not get it and stuff. The two lesbian ladies, one is still with Diana, and the other one has taken up an apprentice. Now, it's confusing. When he got arrested because of his religion, because they used to arrest people because of their religion back in those days, Protestants and this and that. Anyway, he got arrested, and she was trying everything she could to get him out, but it's never explained why. I think secretly, either she has a crush on him or that's her son, but it has not been revealed. So when season 2 comes, if it ever does come, we're gonna see how Catherine reigns. Now, like I said before, trying to rush all this historical lore in 8 episodes is ridiculous and everything. Like, it's just insane. I wish they would have spread it out a whole lot more. But the way they did it with the flashbacks and the storytelling and the specific stories that they told to tell how Catherine became that of power, it works and everything because they cut out all the middle stuff and they got straight to the point. It just took them a long time to get to that point. But it still would have been nice for like a complete show to spread it out. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause that's the way like I'm used to it. 'Cause, I'm an American and stuff. I'm not used to this whole European formula of television telling where everything's just so short and condensed and, stuff like that. So while I wish there was more drama and fantasy and romance and all this other stuff in this series, it is a pretty good series. It's just all people ever do is bang and plot and scheme. Now, when it comes to this series, I'm very confused. Now, I like the way Liv acts and everything, right? But I'm surprised they didn't get Samantha's daughter to play a younger version of her. I've said this before. Her daughter is an actress, and she was in that Amazon Prime Hannah show. And they look like twins and stuff. So I don't know why they didn't get her. Maybe they just don't want to work together. A lot of family don't, you know what I'm saying? Now, when it comes to that of this version of Catherine, she's very different from the one from Reign. The one from Reign is out in the open, like scheming and plotting. She shouts, she's angry, she shows all this emotion. This version is very quiet and meek. She does all her scheming like behind people's backs, or like, not all out in the open. And not only that, but when she does all her evil stuff, she always talks in this very quiet kind of voice. She doesn't shout or anything like that. And it's very menacing because she always keeps this scowl on her face that's very intimidating and stuff. So she's up to something, but you don't know exactly what. And I do like that version because you don't have to be so manic and angry and shouty. You can be as quiet as possible and still as scary as can be. Okay, so I just went to IMDb, and season 2 apparently has been filmed and everything. And it's another 8 episodes. Apparently it says so far it's only going to be 2 seasons. Minnie Driver is going to play Queen Elizabeth I, and Mary is still going to be alive for now. It's been a while since I saw Minnie Driver in anything. It seems that Ramina is going to be recast for season 2. I don't know if they're doing a time jump or just the actress probably unavailable or what. And like I said before, this series is on Stars, or you can watch it through Amazon Prime with Stars or Roku TV or Sling. But this is based on a novel from 2004 called Catherine de Medici, Renaissance Queen of France. And I've never read the book or anything about it, so I don't know exactly how faithful it is to the show or how faithful it is to like source material, and stuff like that. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, well, I'll talk to you later. Bye.